Your Holiness, Gandhi Rinpoche, Tunga Rinpoche, and former Governor B.P. Singh, and all the guests that we are present here, especially Honorable Speaker and the members of the Tibetan Parliament, I would like to congratulate the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies for observing the 50th anniversary or Golden Jubilee. And so on behalf of Central Tibetan Administration, I would like to first congratulate all the former professors and lecturers who are here and who are not here. And also I would like to congratulate Vice Chancellor Ngao Samdala for his leadership. And particularly I would like to acknowledge my predecessor, Kyabje Tisu Samdurumbache, who has been an instrumental in building this institute for so many years. 30 years of his life was dedicated to this institute, and the success that you see in from all the alumni who have traveled far and wide to spread the Nalanda tradition, knowledge of Nalanda tradition, and also come to CTA to serve as a civil servant. And around the world, they are taking various leadership roles in different parts of the world, for which I am very grateful to my predecessor, Kyabje Samdul Rinpoche, and also the present leadership of Central Institute of Tibetan Studies. And as Vice Chancellor stated, 50 years ago, His Holiness Dalai Lama had a vision and a plan to establish such institute. And with the generous support of the Indian government, especially then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji, it was established in January 1st of 1968. In the last 50 years, as per His Holiness' vision and advice, all the faculty members and students have worked so hard to preserve the Tibetan Buddhism, to preserve Nalanda tradition, to preserve all aspects of Indian tradition. And not just that, you have managed so far to keep alive and spread the wisdom of India or the Nalanda tradition around the world. And this is a major achievement, and as listed by Vice Chancellor Ngao Samdala, all the projects that have taken place and continue to take place, and I wish all the faculty members and staff are very best in the future endeavor. And congratulate for all the great achievements you have made. However, today is also the day to visualize as to what would the Central Institute of Higher Studies will do in next 50 years. So as far as CTA is concerned, we recently had a conference and discussion on 550 vision. I think it has come, time has come for the Central Institute to also have a 550 vision, so that the next 50 years, what would you like to do, where you want to see the Central Institute in the international forum as well, or in the global forum as well. My humble suggestion is to take the advice of His Holiness Dalai Lama, because as you all know, His Holiness has 4 commitments. One is to promote human values of compassion and kindness. 2, to promote interfaith harmony. And 3rd, to support and advocate the cause of Tibetan culture, environment, and the Tibetan people. And recently, he has been talking about the revival of Nalanda tradition in India. This, I think, is very important. And here I see the institute is suited for the carrying on the message and the vision of His Holiness Dalai Lama, not just in India, but all over the world. After the occupation of Tibet by the Red Army of China, the first thing the Chinese army did was destroy Tibetan Buddhism, Tibetan civilization, Tibetan culture. 98% of monasteries and nunneries were destroyed. 99.9% of monks and nuns were disrobed. And Chinese Communist Party thought that they succeeded. They have made Tibet into China and Tibet into Chinese, because there was no iota or presence of Tibetan Buddhism as far as they could see. However, His Holiness had plan A, B, C, D, E, and F. Last time when I came, I shared with you the plan A was to revive Buddhism or Nalanda tradition among exiled Tibetans, which is succeeded. Plan B was to revive Nalanda tradition among the Himalayan region, which is succeeded. Plan C was to revive Nalanda tradition or Buddhism around the world with all the Dharma centers around the world. We have succeeded. And Plan D, to revive Nalanda tradition inside Tibet, which has also been a successful in the sense in the private space, in social space, Buddhism is practiced or asserted by the Tibetan people inside Tibet. And Plan E was to see revival of Nalanda tradition or Buddhism in China. Now we all know China is oddly the largest Buddhist country in the world with 300 to 400 million Chinese practicing Buddhism. In that sense, His Holiness' vision of Plan A, B, C, D, and E have succeeded. For that, we owe a lot of gratitude to His Holiness Dalai Lama. Now, Plan F, the final plan, is to revive Nalanda tradition in India. Why India? India is the land of origin of Nalanda tradition, where all the great masters of Nalanda tradition from whom we learned and revive Nalanda tradition in Tibet. And as I said, oddly to China, why? Because oddly, China has become the largest Buddhist country in the world, and India has become the smallest Buddhist country in the world. So it's only fitting that Nalanda tradition should come back to the land of origin, the land where Buddha walked around and spread Buddhism in the state of Bihar, in the state of UP, in the state of Gujarat, in the state of Orissa, so on and so forth. And this is missing. And why we need to revive Nalanda tradition in India? On this, His Holiness does not have any personal or vested interest. He wants to revive for the sake of India. Nowadays, Prime Minister Modi ji talks about Make in India and wants to export things from India all over the world and wants to make India a great country. But if you want to do that, India should not, or the Indian discourse should not focus on last 70 years after independence or 700 years under colonial system in the Mughal or the British colonial system. Rather, we should go back to that 1,000 years where India was the number one and the largest and the most cheapest export of India with minimum expenses but highest return was Buddhism. Ashoka and Kanishka included spread Buddhism all over the world. Even today, 14 countries in this world have the majority of the population practicing Buddhism. 52 countries have large presence of Buddhism in the whole world. And all these countries look at India as the land of Buddha or Buddhism. They all pay respect to India and see India as the national leader of the whole world. Hence, Buddhism that spread around the world has also brought peace and harmony around the world. Hence, revival of Nalanda tradition back in India is to restore the respect and the gratitude of all these Buddhist countries and all these countries where Buddhism is practiced. And also, coincidentally, in that 1,000 years when Nalanda was thriving, when Takshashila was thriving, when Buddhism was spreading around the world, India also happens to be the number one country in economy in spirituality, in civilization, even in security matters. If Prime Minister Modi and the people of India wants to see India as number one, we must go back to the 1,000 years when India was number one. And by reviving Nalanda tradition in India, like we witnessed in the last 2 days, the discourse we had on the study of mind, the ancient knowledge of Nalanda scholars, which we kept alive in Tibet for more than 1,000 years. We have brought it back to India. We want to share it with the people of India so that the ancient knowledge can be debated, can be studied. And now, interestingly, many of the scientists around the world, especially in the West, are very interested. And the discourse and the debate on Buddhism and science is going around in America, in Europe, even in African countries. As you know, the president of Botswana wanted to invite His Holiness Dalai Lama to have a discourse between Buddhism and science. It's time the Indian leaders, the Indian intellectuals practice and get engaged in the Nalanda tradition of study of mind. I had the privilege of organizing a conference at Harvard Health School. And His Holiness Dalai Lama attended. I was really surprised, rather shocked, when a friend of mine, he is a well-known professor and a psychiatrist, told me that in Western psychology, in practice of psychiatry, they don't study mind. Rather, they just analyze and diagnose brain. I was shocked. In Nalanda tradition and Buddhist discourse, mind is the main component of human happiness or suffering. In the Western psychology, mind is what brain does. And this new interest that's being shown by Western countries, by scientists around the world on Nalanda tradition or about the wisdom of Nalanda tradition is the new beginning. And this is where we can make a major contribution. So when I say, or when we say, we have to follow the advice of His Holiness Dalai Lama, some people say, oh, it's democratic, it's freedom of speech, why should we follow one person's advice? But if you actually analyze what His Holiness says, if you follow compassion and kindness, it's good for you as an individual. It's good for your family. It's good for your community. It's good for your cause. It's good for your country. It's good for your region and good for the whole world. Hence, revival of Nalanda tradition, study of mind, human values that we can contribute to the rest of the world. Here, the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies is very relevant because you have the institute, you have all the infrastructure, and today we also witness anthem being sang in Sanskrit. You all are taught not just English, not just Tibetan, not just Hindi, also Sanskrit and Chinese. Students and faculty members are equipped with the necessary tools that you can use to spread Nalanda tradition and the wisdom of Nalanda tradition. And I hope that in the next 50 years, we'll have many international known scholars from this institute who will spread the His Holiness Dalai Lama's philosophy or thinking to the rest of the world. And not only spread and revive Nalanda tradition in India, but you will be the messenger of His Holiness thinking and philosophy around the world, through which we will have a harmonious world, we will have a peaceful world, and we will have a peaceful and number one India in the whole world. With that, I pray that His Holiness, the great 14th Dalai Lama, live very, very, very long, and wish and pray that the aspirations of 6 million Tibetans be fulfilled, and they will come sooner than later, that His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, will return to Tibet, and peace and basic freedom will be restored to Tibetans in Tibet. Jai Bharat, Jai Tibet. Thank you.